Do you remember Greenland? Not the Danish territory coveted by the Curious Orange. I mean the 2020 disaster movie starring Gerard Butler. No? I'm not surprised considering you're clearly a thinking human being. Well, the long 6-year wait is over. There is now a sequel, Greenland 2 Migration. It reunites Butler with Marina Baccarin, continue the story of structural engineer John Garrity and his wife Alison, who apparently didn't have a career. Thank God for Wikipedia, because I really didn't want to have to watch the original again, which, if my memory serves me well, was a generic, bland, run-of-the-mill disaster movie about a father separated from his family while they all tried to escape the apocalypse or whatever. Anyway, the story so far. A comet passing Earth fragments and bits hit the planet. Garrity and his family are informed by DHS that they've been selected to be saved from the coming extinction event. Trying to get to an airbase, Garrity gets separated from his wife and son. Lots of wild and exciting things happen. They make it to an airport and onto the last flight to Greenland and are finally safe in a bunker where, 9 months later, radio contact is made with the other survivors around the world. And now for the follow-up you've all not been waiting for. 5 years have passed. Life is going on at the bunker near Thule Base in Greenland, somehow. John Garrity, played by Gerard Butler, is an engineer and goes on a recon mission outside to check on lifeboats and the general state of the island. His wife Alison, played by Marina Baccarin, is one of the leaders of the settlement. The son is a teenager, still dealing with diabetes. Scientists talk about Clark Crater, which, according to reports, is some sort of Garden of Eden, free from storms and radiation. A series of earthquakes destroy the bunker, and the Garritys and their friend Dr. Amina escape with others in a lifeboat before a tsunami hits their land. They make it to Liverpool, a flooded, desolate and destroyed wasteland where the people are filthy, crazy, sick, desperate and under strict military control. I'm not saying anything. A thunderstorm arrives and the Garritys and Amina hitch a ride with a local to London. In London, they find an old friend who gives them a car to get to Dover. John reveals that he has radiation poisoning and only a few weeks to live. En route, Amina is killed in an attack, but the Garritys make it to Dover, where the English Channel is now land that they can drive across, until a former trench forces them on foot. They meet a friendly Frenchman, insert joke, who takes them in and gives them information about getting to the crater and the warfare going on. He also persuades them to take his daughter along, as his wife is too sick to go anywhere. They make it to a friendly military base and onto a bus to take them into the crater, but after an attack by insurgents, John is mortally wounded. They make it, but John dies after seeing that all the reports about the crater are true. His wife, son and the Frenchman's daughter are safe. There's a message about the future and looking after the world, and that's the end. And 98 minutes is nice and tight and doesn't labour on and on. I'm not sure it wasn't released in the UK cinemas, as it did $45 million in the US box office on a $90 million budget. It would have definitely looked more impressive on the big screen. This is not a CGI spectacular like its predecessor, I think. I didn't really watch the first, but I'm sure it was a crash bang wallop type movie. There are some big effects like the tsunami and a flurry of comet fragments crashing into a forest, but for the most part it's kept very much to a minimum, focusing on world building like the flooded Liverpool and the landscape of the English Channel. This is no character study, as we don't learn any more about the Garritys than we knew already, which is nothing unless you rewatch the first one beforehand or somehow remembered them. There are a few side characters who appear briefly and are killed after a few minutes, and there's no real reason for that to happen. They could have been kept to the end, or at least a lot longer, or not even included at all, and the story would have been no better or worse. Maybe this could have done with a longer runtime, telling us more about how people survived or how the war around the craters developed over the years. It's hard to care about them when they are here today and gone tomorrow. The Garritys are somewhat of a non-typical disaster movie family, as they are together and loving, and there's no secrets or tension between them, but they're not especially sympathetic either. Given the health condition John has, we can guess how the film ends, so it's hardly a shock when it happens. It's very much dripping with biblical metaphor about the Exodus, but it's not overplayed either. This is no spectacle. It's much more intimate and muted than the first, shying away from the bombastic, loud crashing of a typical disaster movie, and focusing on how people do their best to survive in an alien world that they're still trying to adjust to. It doesn't quite succeed in that respect, but it doesn't exactly fail either. It's a solid sequel that gives something different to its predecessor and moves the story forward. I'm surprised it ended the way it did, as surely there should have been a part 3 with Butler involved, but never mind. Greenland 2 Migration is a decent sequel no one asked for to a movie no one remembers. It works, and that's the bare minimum it needed to do.